So our test on Thursday is on R4 through R8. So our quiz that we had, the last quiz was R4 and R5, which was the adding, polynomials, subtracting, and multiplying. And then R6, 7, and 8 were all about factoring. So it's going to be everything that the quiz had plus factoring. So the first 5 questions on the review are stuff that we had from the quiz, so R4 and R5. So number 1 says to add. How do I add these together? What do I need to add together? The like terms. So what's a like term with negative 2x cubed? X cubed. And how do I add like terms? I add what part of them? I add the coefficients, and the variable part stays the same. So this would be negative 2 plus 1, which would be negative 1, so just negative x cubed. So the variable part stays the same. Now I can go to my x squared terms. So 4x squared minus 2x squared. We add the coefficients. So 4 minus 2 would be 2. And then the x squared part stays the same. And then lastly, I have negative 2 minus 2. What's negative 2 minus 2? Negative 4. Be very, very careful with your signs. A lot of people on the quiz would have put 0. They don't cancel out. They're both negative, so you add them and it stays negative. All right, number 2. Here we have to expand and simplify. So we are foiling here, but it's not just a binomial times a binomial. It's a binomial times a trinomial, so it's a little bit more than foiling. So we just have to make sure both terms in our first parentheses get multiplied to everything in the second parentheses. So we start with the x. What is x times 2x squared? So we're multiplying here. So 2x cubed. This is when we change the exponent, when we multiply. Then we have x times 4x. 4x squared. And then x times negative 1 would be negative x. So x got multiplied to the 3 things in the trinomial behind it. Now we go to 3 and we multiply that to all 3 things in the trinomial behind it. So 3 times 2x squared, 6x squared. 3 times 4x, 12x. And 3 times negative 1, negative 3. What do I do next? Combine like terms. So I start with my highest degree, so 2x cubed. Next I have 4x squared plus 6x squared, so that would become 10x squared. Negative x plus 12x would be 11x. And then minus 3. That would be our answer. All right, for number 3, it says expand, or just multiply. How do I multiply this?
2a squared plus,
So if this is my a and this is my b, I start with a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So I could do the shortcut here, which that works. So this would be 2a squared plus 2 times 2a times 3b plus 3b squared. What's another way we could have multiplied this?
Foil.
We could have foiled. Just write it twice and foil it out. That would work too. You'll end up with the same answer if you do it right. But when we do a shortcut, what is 2a squared? 4a squared. Don't forget that squared gets distributed to both the number and the variable. Then I have 2 times 2a times 3. Perfect. 12ab. And then I have 3b squared which would be what? 9b squared. Awesome. The squared gets distributed to the 3 and the b. So 3 squared is 9, and b squared is just b squared. All right, so we have to multiply number 4. How do I multiply these? So we start with our numbers. So it's negative 3 times 5. Negative 15. Then we can move to the m's. So what's m squared times m to the 4th power? M to the 6th power. Awesome. When we multiply, we just add the exponents. And then what's n times n cubed? N to the 4th power, because that has a 1 on it. Perfect. Right, for number 5, I have to subtract. What do I need to do first when I subtract? Distribute the negative. So we flip all the signs of what comes behind it. So this becomes a plus 9a squared, a plus a, and a plus 4. What do I do next? Combine like terms. So 5a squared plus 9a squared. We just add the coefficients. So this would be 14a squared. Then negative 2a plus a would be what? Negative a. And then 7 plus 4. 11. That would be our answer. All right, so that was the R4 and R5 review. If you guys want extra practice on those type of questions, I would strongly suggest looking over your quiz, because a lot of those questions were like what we had on the quiz. So next we have factoring. What's the first thing I should always do when I factor? It's the first thing I should always check for. A greatest common factor. So step 1 is always check for the GCF. In number 6, do I have a greatest common factor here? What? 3. So I can divide all of these by 3. Where does the GCF go? On the outside. We need to put it out front. It doesn't just disappear. We have to put it in our answer. So 3b squared divided by 3. The 3's cancel, so this would just be b squared. 12b divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so that would be 4b. And then negative 63 divided by 3 would be negative 21. Now from here, I always check to see if I could factor more. I start with a number that is 1 in front of my b squared, so I could just factor normally. What are 2 factors of negative 21 that add to 4? 7 and negative 3. Perfect. So in my parentheses, what would I put? B plus 7 and b minus 3. If you put x, that's fine. No big deal. As long as you get the number parts right. So, and we have to make sure we put that 3 or GCF on the outside. Whatever we take out, it's got to be in our answer. So step 1 is check for a GCF. Do I have a GCF? No. I can't divide them all by 3 because 7 isn't divisible by 3, so I can't take anything out here. So when I start with a number that's not 1 here, what do I need to do first to factor this? Multiply the first times the last. So 3 times negative 20 would be negative 60. What are 2 factors of negative 60 that add to 7?
12 and negative 5.
12 and negative 5. Perfect. A lot of people on the homework put 6 and 10. Yes, those are factors of 60, but they don't add to 7. It has to add to that middle number. So in my parentheses, what would I put? N plus 12 and n minus 5. Now, since we started by multiplying that 3, what do I have to remember to do? Divide by that 3. So divide if we can. What's 12 divided by 3? 4. Can I divide 5 by 3? No, so what do I do with the 3? Put it in front of that n. So that would be 3n minus 5. And that would be our answer. All right, let's look at number 8. So what do I need to do to factor this one? Well, do I have a number out front? No, so I don't need to multiply the first times last here. What do I need to do? Do I have a greatest common factor? No, so I just need to find 2 factors of 2 that add to 3. 2 and 1. Because 2 plus 1 would be 3. So in my parentheses, I have x plus 2 and x plus 1. How did I know that it was both plus signs in here? Because they're both positive. Both 2 and 1 are positive. So we just put a plus sign. All right, let's look at number 9. How can I factor number 9? Factor by grouping. Anytime we have 4 terms, we want to factor by grouping. So group the first 2, group the second 2. So looking at just our first group, what's my GCF? 6. So I divide them both by 6. 6 what? 6x. So I'm going to take out a 6x. What am I left with when I divide both of these by 6? 4x plus 7. Right, now let's look at our second group. Remember, we want the inside parentheses to be 4x plus 7. So what would I take out? What's my GCF from 16x plus 28? 4. So I'm going to take out a 4. So 16x divided by 4 would be 4x, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. Are my parentheses exactly the same? Yep. So that means I grouped them, right? So what's going to go into my first parentheses? 4x plus 7, and what would go in the second? 6x plus 4. Does the order that I write them in matter? No. I could say 6x plus 4 and then 4x plus 7 if I wanted to. All right, let's look at 10. How should I factor number 10? What are 2 factors of 72 that add to negative 17? Negative 9 and negative 8. Perfect. So what goes into my parentheses? A minus 9 and a minus 8. All right, let's look at 11. How can I factor number 11? Multiply the first and the last. How did I know I was going to multiply the first times the last here? Because I have a number in front of the squared term. So when you start with a number and you can't take out a greatest common factor, you multiply the first times the last. So it's 6 times negative 15. Negative 90. So what are 2 factors of negative 90 that add to negative 1? Negative 10 and 9. Perfect. So in my parentheses, I have w minus 10 and w plus 9. What do I have to remember to do next? Divide by 6. Since I started by multiplying, I have to remember to divide. Can I simplify 10 over 6? What does it simplify to? 5 over 3. We divide them both by 2. So what do I do with the denominator? There's still a denominator. What do I do with it? Put it in front of the w. So this would be 3w minus 5. And then I have 9 divided by 6. Can I simplify 9 over 6? It simplifies to 3 over 2. They're both divisible by 3. But I still have a denominator, so what do I do with that? Put it in front of the w. So 2w plus 3. So because I can't take out a GCF, I'm going to multiply the first times the last. So 20 times 6 is 120. What are factors of 120 that add to 23? 8 and 15. This one was challenging to come up with the factors, but doable. Just write down all your factors on the side.
Why do they do that? Like, why can't you just make it like simple? Like, if you get the idea.
So what goes inside the box? X plus 8 and x plus 15. We'll get to the y at the end.
I don't get how to do it when there's an x and a y.
Okay, well, I'll explain.
So it'd be x20 plus 8.
Let her teach.
No?
So I divide by 20. Since I started by multiplying that 20, I have to make sure I divide both the numbers by 20. Can I simplify this fraction?
Yeah, by 4.
By 4.
I can divide them both by 4. So this fraction now becomes 2 over 5. So what do I do with the denominator?
Put it in front of the x.
Put it in front of the x. So this would be,
5x plus 2.
yes, 5x plus 2. And then the second one.
You reduce here, right?
What goes into both 15 and 20?
5.
5. So what's my new fraction?
It would be 5x.
3 over 4. What do I do with the 4?
4x plus 3.
Bring it in front of the x. So 4x plus 3. Now since I had two variables to start, I had an x and a y, our answer has to have the y's at the end. So you just put them in. It's just one additional step at the end, but it doesn't change anything. That's all you do. Just put the y's in there. How could I check my answer? I could FOIL it out. If I FOILed it out, I will get the original. So you could always check your work by FOILing. So let's say we didn't know our factors of 120. So I'm going to make a little chart over here. I have 1 and 120. Then next 2 and 60. Then 3 and 40.
Oh, okay.
4 and 30. 5 and 5 goes into 120. 6 goes into 120 20 times. These still don't work. 7 doesn't go into 120. Then we can try 8. So I don't know 8 times what gives me 120. So I just divide. So 120 divided by 8 would be 15. And then that one works. All right, let's look at 13. How can I factor when I have 4 terms? Group the first 2, group the second 2. What's my GCF from the first group? X squared. So I have to think what divides into both 3 and 8. So I can take out an x squared. What am I left with when I take out an x squared? Awesome, 3x minus 8. Now in the second group, what can I take out?
The negative 9x.
Can I divide 24 by negative 9?
No.
No. So what else? What's my GCF?
3.
3. When I take out a 3, what am I left with?
Negative 3x.
Negative 3x plus 8. Are my parentheses exactly the same? No. One is 3x minus 8. The other one is negative 3x plus 8. So they are not exactly the same. So let's check again. What could I take out as my GCF? A negative 3.
Would you always have to just try it?
Well, if you can see in your head that the signs are going to be different, then take out a negative 3. So this becomes a positive 3x minus 8. Now are my parentheses exactly the same? Yeah. So my first group is 3x minus 8. What's my second group going to be?
x2 plus 3.
What did I take out as the GCF from the second group?
X squared plus 3.
So x squared. Did I take out a positive 3?
Oh no, minus 3.
X squared minus 3.
Wait, what? How do we get that?
So the first two, the 2 that are the same go into your first group. The second group are going to be the 2 that are outside.
Oh, okay. And why is it a minus?
Because I took out a negative 3 to make the parentheses inside the same. Let's look at 14. So I have 2 terms here. How do I factor when I have 2 terms?
Double them.
Well, do I have a GCF? No, but they are what type of numbers? Perfect squares. So what times what gives me 81y squared?
9 times
9y
9.
and 9y. What times what gives me 100x squared?
10x and 10x.
Is that negative? Or you don't.
Well, how would I write my answer?
You do 9y plus 10x and then 9y minus 10x.
Perfect. One parentheses gets a plus, the other one gets a minus. So 9y minus 10x. It does not matter the order. What are my two factors of 42 that add to negative 13?
Negative 6 and negative 7.
Negative 7 and negative 6. So what goes into the parentheses?
K negative 6. I mean K minus 6 and K minus 7.
K minus 6 and K minus 7. Does the order matter?
No.
Nope. So because I just have a K squared, there's no number out front. I don't have to multiply here. I can just go ahead and factor. Any questions here? All right, looking at the next one. How do I factor this?
You have to multiply by the 5 equals 6. Negative 6.
So what are two factors of 5 that equal negative 6?
Negative 5 and negative 1.
Negative 5 and negative 1. So in my answer, I have m minus 5 and
M minus 1.
m minus 1. But what am I missing? The n.
Oh yeah.
So I just have to make sure I put the end at the end. So they still go in the parentheses, just at the end of each number. Do I write the 1 in front of the n? No. If your coefficient's 1, you don't write it.
It'll be wrong.
Nah. I swear to God.
17.
Wait. For real? I'll tell you.
How do I factor 17? Take out a GCF. What's my GCF? 9y squared. So I'm going to take out a 9y squared. What am I left with?
3y plus 2.
3y plus 2. Awesome. Can I factor this anymore?
No.
Nope. So that's my answer. All right, 18. What can I do to factor 18? Instead of doing that to make this question a little bit easier, I'm going to take out the GCF first. So AJ, what's my GCF? 2. I'm going to divide all of these numbers by 2. So 2 goes to the outside. And I'm left with y squared minus 12y plus 11. Now that I don't have a number in front of that y squared, I could just factor it normally. So what are two factors of 11 that add to negative 12? Negative 11 and negative 1. So I have y minus 11 and y minus 1. What am I missing from my answer? 2. Any GCF that you take out, just make sure you write it out front. How can I factor 19?
Grouping.
Do I have a GCF?
Yeah.
What?
1/8.
1 over 8. I'm going to take out the 1 over 8, and then I'm left with 3x to the 4th power plus 3y to the 3rd power plus 5x squared. Oh, I was saying y. There's x's. Plus 1.
Wait, where'd you get the regular initial?
Because I just took the numbers up top, but there's no x in the last one, so it's just 1. All right. Let's see. Can I factor this anymore? No. If I were to factor by grouping, I'd group the first 2, group the second 2, but I don't have a GCF that would make these parentheses exactly the same. So I can't factor by grouping. So this is my answer. All right, looking at 20. What can I do to factor 20?
I have no idea. GCF.
Do I have a GCF? Anything the same from my first term and my second term? No, but almost. In the first one, I have 2x minus 3. In the second one, I have negative 2x plus 3. How could I change the signs of this? But I want to make it a positive 2x and a negative 3. Because I want it to be exactly like this one.
Get negative 7.
Awesome. So I'm going to take out a negative 1. I'm going to divide out a negative 1. So this becomes a negative 7. So it's negative 7 times 2x minus 3. And the first one was 4x times 2x minus 3. Now do I have a GCF in these two terms? What is it? 2x minus 3. So when I take away a 2x minus 3 from both of them, what am I left with? 4x minus 7. And that's our answer.
Wait, why did you?
You don't have to do anything to that question.
All right, let's look at 21. How can I factor?
Oh, you have to, since
Perfect square.
They're perfect squares.
squares,
So what times what gives me 81x to the fourth power?
9x squared and 9x.
9x squared. What times what gives me 16y to the fourth power?
4y squared and 4y squared.
4y squared and 4y squared. So in my parentheses, I have 9x squared plus 4y squared times 9x squared. What comes next? Minus. One parenthesis gets a plus, the other one gets a minus. So minus 4y squared.
We have to factor again.
Yeah.
Which one can I factor again?
The 9x squared and the 4y squared.
They both have 9x squared.
Oh, the minus.
The minus, because this one is the difference of two squares.
So you
Can I
can't
factor this one anymore?
No.
No, because it has a plus, so it's not the difference of two squares. So that one's done. That can't factor it anymore. But I can factor the right one more. So what are my two factors of 9x squared?
3x.
3x and 3x. What are my two factors of 4y squared?
2y.
2y and 2y. So what's going to go into my parentheses?
2y.
3x plus 2y and 3x minus 2y. And then out front, I still have that 9x squared plus 4y.
Because it's already positive.
You can't factor the left one because there's a plus in the middle. So that makes it not the difference of two squares. So we can't factor. You can only factor the difference of two squares, only when it has a minus.